When you first get the IAT kit and the air flapper kit, they'll come to you like this in bags. This is the flapper kit right here. So this is to eliminate the flappers. And this kit right here is gonna be for IAT Relocation. You're gonna wanna pull these both out of the bags. This is the IAT Relocation kit from Brand Tuning. It's gonna include a plug where the sensor actually goes on the engine, and or where it used to go. We're gonna relocate to the front of the bike, so there'll be a hole there, so we plug up the Airbox with this. And then we have the cable here. This is the actual extension for the wiring itself. So to start this off, what we're gonna be doing on the 2020 here is removing this cover first. And to remove this, we gotta take this out, take that out, take this out, take this out, and take this out. So let me get all those out real quick, and then this will unclip on each side. There's like a little clip here and here, and there's some Velcro there, and I'll show you that in a second. As like former generations of the S1000RR, this will be a T25. Now why do they call it a T25? Well, it's a Torx, which means it has like a kind of star pattern on it. It's not an Allen wrench, but it has like a star pattern on it. And this is a size, where is it? T25, right there. So pull all that stuff out. Now you can see here, once that piece lifts off, and there's like a little bit of plastic Velcro here and here. Once you get the 3 screws out, this one, the side, and the side here, these 3, this will lift off that top piece. And you just kind of put your fingers under it and you pull it from right around here. And that means it'll unclip here and it'll unvelcro here. It may kind of be a little stressing because it feels like it may almost break, but just give it a little tug here and here and it'll be just fine. Okay, so now we're gonna remove this piece. So what you do for this is you remove this screw, which I've done already. Then you remove the seat, which is you pull the center of the seat back on the 2020, and there's a screw right there. You unscrew that, this whole thing comes out, just like that. Now you have access, and you'll have to remove this screw right here, which I've already done, and it feels like it's still very attached. There's no more screws in this thing. So there's like tabs, basically. So this one, push back, and this one comes out like that. Then there's a tab under here that kind of clips in like this and has a hanger. So you push it down and out. Now it should be free to push forward and out. That's all it is. And you can see right in here, there's a hanger right there that needs to come back in. And then one right there, it comes back in. So it's very kind of delicate procedure to pull off this side piece. So just make sure you're really careful when you do it. Now that I got those side pieces off, I'm going ahead and remove the tank. To remove the tank, we're gonna remove this right here, which I'll tell you the sizes in a second here, and these on each side. These are bolts right here. This whole tank should just lift right off at that point. All right, so here at the base of the tank, or the back of the tank, this is gonna be a 10 millimeter. At the side of the tank here, this is going to be a 13 millimeter. When you start lifting the tank up, the first thing you want to remove here are these breathers. One goes on each side of the tank. Remove those. All right, so at the bottom of the tank here, we've got 2 harnesses. You're just gonna kind of lift up. There's a little portion here, you can just put a little screwdriver in there or use your nail, and this will pull out, and this one will pull out. And then basically all you have here is the actual feed line for the fuel itself. This actually has a little white part right here. You push it in, pull it out. There'll be a little bit of fuel that drips out. Don't worry about that, it's nothing crazy. That's what's supposed to happen. And then the tank is free. You're able to get it off the bike. Now go ahead and move it to the side. All right, now that we got the tank off here, we're gonna go ahead and switch back to that T25. And that's gonna just get the ECU out of here. So just get that bolt out. Once you do, you're gonna have to remove a few zip ties and the wiring harness. Okay, so what I went ahead and did is I cut these zip ties here. There's one here, leave this one alone. There's one right here I cut. I removed this sensor, just put a little screwdriver in there and this pops right out. It's part of that harness. I also need to remove this sensor, which you clip, after you kind of get this harness loose, there'll be 2 clips and this thing just kind of pulls out like that. And then this will actually slide out of the back. There's something actually keeping it on the ECU. So that'll get that harness out of there. And at the bottom, there's another harness down here. And this has like a little gray part you slide down. that pushes this out, and that gets that harness out of the bottom there. And then these, you're just gonna slide both these out, which I can't do with one hand, so let me go ahead and do that real quick. So yeah, use two hands. This slides out, then you just pull it out. Same with the side, they both just pull out. The harness comes out of here. There's gonna be this little wire that's gonna be in this rail. Just pull it out of that rail, just move it out of the way and pull it out. Then you have the entire computer, pull right out. There's a little smaller computer at the bottom here, and of course I've dropped the screw down there. For this, the screw that I dropped just goes right into this piece right here. So just move this to the side with that screw that I just dropped, and then we'll move on to the next step. Now that we've removed the computer, I've moved the lines, harnesses out of the way and stuff like that. We have access to the IAT now. This is the IAT sensor right here. What I would suggest you do first is disconnect this, and then we can twist it basically over. We're gonna keep on twisting it, and it pulls right out. All right, now that I've unclipped the harness, and this is just a little clip at the top here, you can just remove the screwdriver, or I just do it with my hand. This whole thing will move over like this and then pull out. Now I can't do it with one hand because I'll need to put one finger to here while I'm pushing the rest of this up, but it'll basically go all the way over to this end, and then you can pull it right up out of there. All right, and now we have the sensor out. You can see this is a sensor right here. We're actually gonna be relocating this to the front of the bike, so keep this safe. And we're gonna be plugging that hole up with this. So let me see if I can just do this with one hand real fast here. This will just kind of go into there and push down in. Oops, come on. There it goes. And it's just be a nice snug fit. It'll pop in a couple times like that. And that's it. Now you're good on this end of it, and we'll just plug in the extension harness into this, and I'll show you how to route that. Okay, so I've routed this line. This is the extension line. I've plugged it into the IAT already. This is the big portion of it. So if I would call this, I guess, the small portion of it. So what I did was to get this line through the bike this way and make it look nice and clean. I took this end of it first, and I put it through the frame here. And this is in between what the airbox is and the charcoal canister lines that go through the frame right here. I pulled these up and pushed it right through in there, and you can actually see the line right there. Now I've already zip tied it, made it look all pretty. When it goes through there, it's gonna kind of fall down in here. Don't worry about that. You can push your fingers up through this portion of the frame if you feed it well enough, and then you can use your other hand to pull it up. And I pulled it up right through here. You see it right there, and it comes up right into there. Now the other portion of it, after this is all zip tied up and everything, push it through where the airbox goes in between the fairing stay, basically. So what you're gonna do is push this out of the way. It kind of moves a little bit, and you're gonna push this sensor, or this end of the clip exactly through here. It'll feed through here and just pull all the excess out. Now, when you wanna pull this, you wanna make sure this is kind of tight, but nothing crazy. I want to make sure that goes in there so it stays away from everything and isn't going to be interrupting anything. The plug, of course, stays in there. When I go through the frame rail here, just make sure it's nice and tight and not hitting the engine. Any excess you have, just pull to the front here and then zip tie it up. What I did was I put one zip tie here to the harness that's already there, and I put one here for when it came through the frame. So it looks all nice and tight. It looks like it's actually part of the harness, and it'll never actually bind against the forks and cause any kind of wear. Now just leave this like this, or in your case, because you probably have the front of your bike here, the only thing you're gonna have to do is remove the windscreen, and there's a little plastic piece that has two clips that pulls out of here. Then you'll remove the actual display itself. And to remove it, there are 3 clips, there, there, and there. And the clips look like this. They slip right off with a pair of pliers. Just make sure you don't lose them, and then the whole dash cluster pulls out. Once you pull it out, we're just going to remove the wire harness, and it's good to go. Just be careful, what the screen's hitting. Now that we have the dash cluster out, this is where it kind of sat. You'll see we have a hole right here. We just move this harness out of the way, and then down in here, we're going to drill a hole right about there. And I will show you exactly which bit to use. All right, the bit I used here was a 5/16. I just used it on a basic drill gun. And I went right through the cluster here and pushed it right into there. And you can see I have the sensor in there now. And then all you have to do is connect your harness right here to the sensor, right through there, and then move all this, right there, and then move all this wiring kind of up in there, and then put it all back together, and you're all set. All right, so the next thing we're going to install here is going to be the Brent tuning flapper kit. Now the flapper kit includes this piece right here and these 3 little plugs. So the first step to installing all this is going to be to remove this airbox and remove all these pieces. The flapper kit is actually right here, the OEM flapper kit. But in order to get to this, we need to pull all this stuff out of here. So the first thing we're gonna do is get this T20 right here, and we're gonna take out all these black screws that have this whole line right here, and then remove this piece. Okay, so I've removed all the screws. There's 6 of them here, and they're very unique, so make sure these sit apart from all the other screws you've taken apart. These ones go in the airbox. Now, they range anywhere from here to here to here, and they even go down in here. And these kind of connect the harness to everything too. So you want to get all 6 of them out, and this thing will kind of start moving out of the way. You're going to want to start removing harnesses. You're going to start removing the IAT. This sensor down here is just a clip. This over here, this is just a clip, and then there's a zip tie right here, and I believe there's a zip tie on here too. You're gonna have to remove too. Once all that comes out, this whole harness should just move out of the way so we have a nice empty airbox. Also forgot to mention here that the injector clips themselves. So because they were so hidden, I couldn't even really show you guys. So in here, it's just honestly just a real basic clip down the bottom here. And where are they? So like this is one of them right here. You'll just push this up and it just slides out real easy. You have for all 4 of them. So now we have a nice exposed area here. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna unbolt the fuel rail and the injectors. We're just gonna pull it all out together, but in order to do that, you need to unbolt it. So again, it's these T20. There should be, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So those 4 bolts, this whole rail should come out together with the injectors, and we can pull that over to the side. Okay, now that's all unbolted. You can this kind of just gently pulls out. Those are your injectors, so be a little careful with them. It kind of goes right there. And now we just have a nice open area here. So the next step you're going to do is push these 2 tabs in on both sides and pull out this plastic piece. It pulls out like this. You're also going to pull out the air filter. Okay, now that that's out of the way, the last thing we're going to want to do here is remove a breather. It's a crankcase breather right here. This is connected by a very odd looking connector here. All you got to do is take a pair of pliers, is what I did, and you kind of twist it and it just pops out. And I'm pretty sure we can reuse this, but I'll let you know in a second here after I get everything back together. Other than that, this piece will just kind of lay there, and then we're going to have some screw here on this side and on the top here on each side. We're going to remove all of that right now. To remove these, I am using a T30. So that's what you're going to use to remove all 4 of these screws. Keep in mind that the screws that go to the bottom of the airbox are shorter and don't have washers compared to the ones at the top of the airbox. So just make sure you keep that in mind when you're putting this all back together. Now that we're all done with that, this whole piece will slide off. So let me go ahead and pull this off and I'll show you what it looks like. I forgot to mention, there's also this piece here. When you start sliding this stuff out of the way, this becomes very loose. It's just a little harness, kind of moves things out of the way. So there's one on each side. Just pull this out and put it to the side and make sure you know how exactly it goes. It goes basically right against the frame, against the plastic, and it goes right in like that. It only goes in one direction because it has a basic hook on the side of it. Okay, this is what it looks like when that is out of the way, and now we have full access to flappers with the screw holes. Awesome. That's basically all we had to do was to get to this point. Now, when I was pulling this off, there were a couple lines that went onto this piece right here. So remove the top and the bottom piece, and then there's a this piece at the bottom here. This obviously you just carefully remove it. That's a crankcase breather, so there's gonna be residual oil in it, so make sure you're careful with that. And it'll just slide right out. Pull up this truck. Yeah. Then the stacks in here, just make sure everything is nice and even. Don't go in there, don't do anything, just leave that as is and just pull right out. It's kind of like a form fit to the throttle bodies here. Now the next thing we're gonna do is remove these 2 screws right here. This is one of the airbox screws right here. It's pulled out. I gotta pull out the other one. And this is a T40 I'm using, so nice and big. So let me pull out the other one, see what happens next. Okay, after both those screws come out, this will be very loose and be able to come out. There are clips that attach, and you can see right there where my finger is pointing. See if I can get the focus on that. There's like a little spot where it actually you have to push in, unclip it. That's on both sides, and the whole part comes out like this. And then we're gonna have to unclip the bottom here where that harness is, and then I'll show you guys exactly what happens next. All right, now we have the box out of the bike. You're going to turn it upside down, and this is the actual servo right here that moves the flappers themselves, and you can see the flappers right there. It allows a little bit of residual air to the sides, but blocks the majority of it right there. And this is basically the intake of the bike right there, just like that. So it blocks everything off. So this is going to be a T25. I already pulled one out. We're going to pull all three of these out, and then we're going to get a look at what this looks like with it out. All right, now, if you pull out the motor from the bottom, meaning you don't pull it from the top, it'll fall apart. You pull it from the bottom, you can kind of see how this works. Now, 6,000 RPMs, these things will open up like that, and they close up below 6,000 RPM. So that's basically how they work. Now we're just gonna go ahead and remove all of this out of there. And then we're gonna plug it all up. I'll show you how to do that next. Okay, now once you get the cover for the, this goes at the top there like that. Once you get that off, you'll see there's a couple gears here. And that's how everything kind of moves. You just take a little screwdriver, move them out like that. And now that piece is gone. And let me try to get this piece real quick. Now this piece is gone. Now in here, flappers just kind of come out now. That's it. Now we have an exposed airbox, and now we're gonna start plugging it up with the parts Bren tuning provided. Okay, so once everything comes out, you shove the motor, top piece, these two pieces with the rods, and the wind and the flappers. That's all gonna come out and stay out of the bike. Now, as far as what goes back into the bike, one screw will go back in. This Bren tuning piece will fit right in there. It screws right in, clamps right in. At the top here, there's a open hole. Plug that up with the big piece of there's like 3 plugs. The bigger one goes right in here. And at the bottom, the 2 plugs that Bren tuning provides go into there, and they all fit very snugly. So now we're just gonna go ahead and put everything back together, and I'll show you guys the final product. And if there's any kind of quirks that I'm noticing putting it back together, I'll let you guys know. So everything's coming back together really easily. The harness they used for the servo motor on the flappers, that can be pushed to the side and zip tied away when you put everything back together. I've got the airbox back in, clipped into the main snorkel. I've got the airbox on here. I'm gonna be putting all the wiring harness and everything back on here. I even got that weird clip down there back on there. It's real easy to push back together with a pair of pliers. Other than that, the only thing you need is a Bren tuning flash to eliminate any errors you would have from the flapper motor being disconnected. Other than that, you're all good to go.